this morning, England lost in India for the third straight test. They slipped to a 5-wicket defeat, and that means that India have won the series 3-1 with a game to well, they're leading the series 3-1 with a game to spare. And yeah, I mean, the last two test matches especially, they've sort of been ones to forget for England fans, haven't they, Peter?
Yeah, I think so. Well, first of all, when we were planning on having the podcast tonight, um, neither of us expected to wake up to cricket. And I woke up at 6:30 this morning and was amazed that there was cricket and there was
Mm,
some hope for England. Obviously,
yeah. Well,
fanned out
it's
quite
funny actually
quickly, but
because
yeah.
when you said that, but I actually didn't wake up to cricket. I woke up to your message saying, "I'm surprised I've woken up to cricket." So I was like, "Oh." So
Well,
India haven't finished a game off inside an hour then.
yeah. There was, and also when I woke up just as it was gonna be the end of lunch, so I woke up to hope basically that was very quickly quashed by Jurel and Jurel and Gill, but I still woke up to some form of cricket and also to some hope. But yes, possibly the third test being more one to forget than this one, but we've had um, we've had some lessons. I think this England side have been dealt some lessons by India over the last two tests. Would you say, Paddy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been times in in the last couple of tests, and especially the fourth test, where you kind of felt that England had India on the ropes, and it felt like we had the momentum, and we just haven't been able to capitalise. And then that's been a problem sort of throughout the series, really. I mean, I know we got off to a great start in the first test, but it just feels like since then there's been too many key moments where we've worked hard to get into a good position, and then we've just not been able to kind of get that killer blow in, really.
Mm.
And this test here, I mean, you know, after the first innings, I was kind of thinking, that's a really good score. I think considering the position we were in, and obviously thanks to Joe Root. I don't know if he's listened to Michael Vaughan or any other pundits, but he did go back to playing like Joe Root and sort of putting Bazball aside, and he goes and gets 120 not out. So something obviously worked there. We saw a much more composed Joe Root. He was far more patient. I mean, I think he was, he faced some like 250 deliveries, was it?
274 in the first innings. Yeah,
274.
yeah.
And yeah, he was at the crease for about 6 hours, which, is something we've not really seen for a while from any English batsman, I don't think.
No.
So that was good. And obviously it's interesting, in the week where loads of people were saying Joe Root should go back and play like Joe Root. He does, and he scores a century. So that obviously bodes well. Um, but, I mean, it felt like the chances were there. And I think the annoying thing is that with how relatively close the game got to in the final innings, you just look back to the big sort of collapse what we had batting in the second innings, and you just think another 50 runs and who knows. But I mean, as much as it was, India was superb. I do think there's got to be real questions and eyebrows raised over that collapse because it was pretty spectacular. I think it was from 110 for 3 to 145 all out. Obviously, it was over a long period of time. There was a long period of time, but it was like 35 runs for 7 wickets, which in any sort of in any kind of setting is well, it's abysmal, really, isn't it, Peter?
Yeah, the the most of the pundits on the radio, on Talksport radio, and then on the actual commentary on the TV as well, were saying that 50 more runs could have been enough for England. And I think I think this is a different collapse. Obviously, we had the collapse where we were chasing 400 in the third test, But this one was a collapse from a genuine strength of position. If you think about the third test, we were 207 for two, I think it was, which is great position, but we were still miles behind the Indian total, so we still had to build quite a lot on. But this one, we had about 50 runs that we had in the in advance starting the innings, and then we were I can't think now. We were sort of 110 for three. Am I right in saying that, or something like that? So we
Yeah.
were in a pretty strong position, and then to collapse like that is essentially gifting away the game. Um, I think I was listening to TGC for the previous test, but it applies possibly even more here. Is that they were saying that in the summer, a couple of the Aussies were talking about the fact that Bazball, England in this era, they always let you in somewhere. They always let you in somewhere because there's a moment where they slip up, and this has been another situation where that has happened, and we've gifted India the chance to be back in the game. 190 odd runs is not easy to chase on a day 4 or 5 pitch, and we were, when it was when we had when Sarfraz got out first ball, and we had India 120 for 5. There was that element of doubt that had crept in, and there was a bit of a chance back again, certainly. But if we'd scored 50 more runs and they weren't chasing 70 odd, they were chasing 120 odd, that was still well in front of the game. I actually want to just say, for just going back about the first innings and Joe Root and playing sort of not in the style of this current England side, I feel like he's just, it was actually just an example of game management that England have kind of forgotten in some in some it looks like they have anyway to me, particularly when they're batting. If you think about where we were in the first innings when Joe Root came in, Ollie Pope had got a 2-ball duck. Duckett had not got many runs. Crawley was out for 40 odd. So I think England were in the first innings, they were 57 for 3, and then Bairstow gets out fairly cheaply as well. And England are in real bad situation. Stokes gets out on the edge of lunch. In fact, that's right. We lost 5 wickets in the first session on day 1. And England in other situations under Brandon McCullum will be bowling that night, because and I don't want to tell cricketers how to do their job because they're better at it than me, but there has been a lack of, in my opinion, a lack of game awareness from England. And actually in this test, I think we finally showed some. Joe Root saw that actually he can't go and do the run a ball tick along kind of thing that he does, because he has to knuckle down, because if he doesn't, England could be in trouble. Ben Foakes sticks around with him. Ollie Robinson, for one of the only things he actually seemed to do in this game, because he barely bowled, got a decent 50 and hung around with Joe Root as well. And actually, game awareness, finally some game awareness from England, because they did not have any of that in the third test. It's kind of as if they took game awareness out of their brain on day 2 and decided they were just going to swing at the ball. So I'm still angry about the third test. And they posted a decent total. And if it hadn't been for Jurel in India's first innings, actually England probably would have been having a decent lead, even more decent lead, should I say. But when we go back to that point that you mentioned as well, England always let you in somewhere. Mm-hmm. And again, to go further back on one of my points, it's a lesson that England starts to maybe think about as they go forward from here. No one realistically, I think, thought that England would. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unoptimistic, but I don't think many people out there thought that England would win. But I do think that England have had plenty of opportunities to keep themselves ticking along and also still be in the series going into this fifth test. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's as weird as it sounds after after losing three on the bounce. I think it's quite reassuring to know that we've not been completely dominated every single day like we were on that last tour of India, because that wasn't a case of we were unlucky. We were just we were just terrible, and India had our life every with the bat and ball that
Mm.
series. But I think it's nice to see that in a weird way. It's nice to see that we've kind of been in control of our own destiny, and unfortunately, we've just messed it up on too many occasions. So, in many ways, that makes it more annoying because India have been brilliant. You've got to give them that. You can't not say they've been fantastic. But at times in this series where we've just gifted them, and as you said, that chance always comes up. And I mean, the Jurel getting to 90. You look at that and you just think we could have so easily have been starting to bat second time round with a lead of about 130,
Yeah. Was he
and then we would have
was he dropped? Am I right in saying that? Did Ollie Robinson drop him?
yeah,
Mm.
because I know we'll probably get back onto this, but I know Robinson he bowled 13 overs in the match. He got that 50 off 90 balls, barely bowled, and he dropped Joel. And it's in the second innings where at a point where I can't remember how many was needed, but I think that catch went down, and I think if that had been taken, you would have been well and truly into the bowlers with maybe 70 or 80 still to get. And all of a sudden, people are thinking, well, this is England's England are on the ascendancy here. So, yeah, you know what I mean? It happens in all these big games, but it just feels like in this match, we just we just gave India too many chances to get in. And, when you're playing against India in their backyard, you can't give them these opportunities because you'll get punished. And, England have been punished. And, as well as we have played in a lot of these sessions and a lot of these days in these games, there's been somewhere we've been completely outplayed. And, it's not even a question of us having a bit of an off session. There's been some days where we've just not looked at it. And it is frustrating, and I think going over there was always going to be hard. It's a very tough place to go. And we said about this before where, India don't lose test matches at home.
12 years,
We
and
maybe,
they haven't lost a series in 12 years as well. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. They just don't, they lose the odd test match here and there, but they don't lose test series on home soil. And I just think we had the chances to, you know, we really did have the chance to be going into the fifth test level. And it's annoying that we had those chances and we didn't take them. But then it's also quite nice to know that we're actually creating them chances for ourselves, unlike the last time we toured India.
Yeah, well, Bumble was on Talksport this morning saying that he and I can't you can't help but agree with him that he supports the way that England have gone about this series. Um, and like I said, I can't help but agree with him because if they had gone about the series the last way that they'd gone about playing in India, i.e., when we got hammered that last time round, then we would have just got hammered again. And you might as well give it a go in this new style that Brendan McCullum is asking for, being positive and aggressive with your cricket and trying to play on the front foot because it didn't work last time being that way, so it's not going to work again, is it? Um, and I think if you look back to the second test, maybe I think that one was India's more than ours for most of the spell. I think after we threw it away in the third test by just batting like as if we just forgotten how to bat, um, the test just rolled and rolled and rolled until India were just completely on top of us. But this one hurts, I think, a little bit more because I feel like we were down, we dragged ourselves back up to put a good total together. We kind of didn't get India as hard as we should have got them in their first innings, but we still had a decent lead. And then the moment hit again, where we just let them back in and gave them a chance. Because anything, the psychological 200 mark is a big deal, but anything actually past 200 is hard to chase and historically quite hard to chase compared to what test matches have been in the past. And if we managed just or so to get to the 250 mark, I feel like we could have really, really been in there because our bowlers actually did a pretty good job across the board. And I feel like if we just had just a few more runs, either from getting Jurel out a bit earlier in the first innings, we'll come on to Jurel and India, I'm sure, because Jurel is a find. He's a quality player. But if we'd had that couple like 50 or so runs from getting Jurel out earlier, or 50 or so more runs from our middle order, let's be honest, that's our middle order that have failed again. Um, then maybe we were talking today about an England win, a famous England win, but sadly we're talking about a dead rubber in the fifth test.